My name is Emma, and for 3 years, my mother-in-law told everyone I was the reason her son couldn't have children. At every family dinner, every holiday gathering, she'd make sure everyone knew I was broken. My husband never defended me. He just sat there in silence while I absorbed the blame. Then one night at 2:47 a.m., a pregnant woman knocked on my door, crying and desperate, claiming my husband had promised to leave me for her. That's when I pulled out the envelope I'd been keeping hidden, the one containing test results that would flip everything they believed upside down. What happened next didn't just end my marriage. It exposed a web of lies that had been carefully constructed long before I ever said, I do. Comment where you're watching from and like and subscribe for more stories. The dining room looked perfect. Candles flickered across the mahogany table, casting warm shadows over the bone china I'd inherited from my grandmother. 5 years of marriage deserved celebration, even if lately it felt like Marcus and I were roommates rather than lovers. I checked my phone again. 7:47 p.m. Marcus was supposed to be home at 5. The roasted chicken was drying out in the oven. I'd made his favorite, crusted with roasted vegetables and that fancy potato gratin that took 2 hours. The anniversary card sat propped against his wine glass, my handwriting flowing across the envelope in careful script. My phone buzzed. Finally. Running late. Important client. Don't wait up. My chest tightened. I typed back. It's our anniversary. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then nothing. I poured myself a glass of the expensive Cabernet I'd been saving and sat down at the empty table. The food could wait. Everything could wait. That seemed to be my role now, waiting for Marcus to remember I existed. At 10:15 p.m., I heard his key in the lock. Relief flooded through me, quickly followed by confusion when I heard a second voice. A woman's voice. Absolutely ridiculous, Marcus. I told you she'd be asleep by now. This is why you need to set boundaries.
Diane.
My mother-in-law. Marcus stumbled into the dining room, his tie loosened, reeking of scotch. Diane followed, immaculate in her Chanel suit despite the late hour, her critical gaze sweeping over my cold dinner setup.
Emma.
Marcus blinked at me like he was surprised to find me in my own home. You're still up. It's our anniversary, I said quietly, hating how small my voice sounded. Diane sniffed. Oh, that's tonight? Marcus, you didn't mention. She settled into what should have been Marcus's chair. Well, since I'm here, I might as well eat. I'm famished. I watched, stunned, as my mother-in-law helped herself to the carefully prepared meal. Marcus collapsed into another chair, not meeting my eyes. The chicken's dry, Diane announced after one bite. You know Marcus prefers his meat moist. His high school girlfriend Bethany made the most divine coq au vin. Of course, by now she'd have given him 3 children. Such a shame that didn't work out. The barb landed like it always did, sharp and precise.
3 years of trying.
3 years of negative pregnancy tests, of temperature tracking, of timed intercourse that felt more clinical than romantic. 3 years of Diane's increasingly pointed comments. Marcus said nothing. He never did. That night, after Diane finally left at midnight and I'd cleaned up the disaster of my anniversary dinner, I lay in bed next to my husband and tried to initiate intimacy. We were in my fertile window. I'd been tracking it obsessively. Not tonight, Em. I'm exhausted. Marcus turned away, and I stared at his back in the darkness. This was the 4th time this month he'd rejected me. The pattern had started around 4 months ago, this careful avoidance of my touch during the times we were supposed to be trying. I opened my nightstand drawer and pulled out my fertility journal, a small leather notebook that held 3 years of hope and disappointment. I flipped to a fresh page and taped in another negative pregnancy test strip, the single line mocking me. Below it I wrote, Anniversary. Marcus came home drunk with Diane. Refused intimacy. Day 14 of cycle. The journal was filled with similar entries. Somewhere along the way, my marriage had become a series of documented failures. The country club brunch was my personal version of hell, but attending was non-negotiable. Diane expected us there every 3rd Sunday, and Marcus never questioned his mother's expectations. I wore my best dress, a floral Kate Spade number that Diane had once said made me look almost elegant, and practiced my smile in the car mirror. The dining room buzzed with the chatter of wealthy women whose lives seemed effortlessly perfect. Diane held court at the center table, surrounded by her friends from the junior league and her book club. "Emma, darling." Diane's voice carried across the room. "Come meet Patricia." Her daughter just had twins, such a fertile girl. I forced my smile wider and joined the circle. Patricia, a woman in her 60s with severe gray hair, looked me up and down. "Still no little ones for you two?" she asked with false sympathy. "How long has it been now?" 3 years, I said, my rehearsed response automatic. 3 years. Patricia's eyes widened. "Oh my. Well, I suppose some women just aren't built for motherhood. My daughter conceived on her honeymoon. Twins run in our family, excellent breeding stock." The women tittered.
I felt something crack inside my chest.
"Poor Marcus." Diane sighed dramatically. "Married to a dud. It's such a shame when a man with such strong genes is held back by, well." She gestured vaguely at me. I excused myself to the bathroom, my face burning. In the marble-tiled sanctuary, I locked myself in a stall and pressed my palms against my eyes, willing myself not to cry. Not here. Not where Diane's friends could see. That's when I heard them. "Saw him at the Palmer Hotel bar last Tuesday," a voice was saying. "Someone at the sinks. With a young blonde. Very cozy." "Marcus Harrison?" Another voice, intrigued. "The very same." She was half his age, practically draped over him. And Diane sits out there acting like her son is a saint. Maybe that's why his wife can't get pregnant. He's too busy with. I stopped breathing. The women left, their heels clicking across the tile, and I stayed frozen in the stall. Marcus. A blonde. The Palmer Hotel. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to move. I opened our shared calendar, scrolling back to last Tuesday. There it was, client dinner, 7 to 10 p.m. Over the next week, I noticed everything I'd been training myself to overlook. The way Marcus angled his phone away when texting. The new password on his screen. The calls he took in his study with the door closed. Thursday evening, I was paying bills when I found a credit card statement in the mail. Not our joint card. This one was in Marcus's name only, an account I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The Palmer Hotel, $347. Cartier, $2,850. The Rosewood Inn, $875. Bella Vita Restaurant, $283. All charges from the past 2 months. All on dates when Marcus claimed to be working late or traveling for business. I photographed every page with my phone, then carefully replaced the statement where I'd found it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the darkness next to my husband, this man I'd promised forever to, and realized I had no idea who he was anymore. At 2 a.m., I crept downstairs and opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed, "Private investigator near me." Victoria Chen's office was in a discreet building downtown, unmarked except for a small placard by the entrance. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. "Tell me everything," she said, sliding a legal pad across her desk.
I did.
The distant behavior, the credit card, the overheard conversation at the country club. By the time I finished, I felt pathetic and paranoid. "You're not crazy," Victoria said firmly. "And you're not the first intelligent woman to sit in that chair and doubt her own instincts. Trust your gut. It's usually right." 3 days later, she called me to her office. The photographs were worse than I'd imagined. Marcus with a young blonde woman. She looked barely 25. At restaurants. Outside her apartment building. At the Rosewood Inn, his hand on the small of her back as they entered. "Her name is Claire Mitchell," Victoria said. "She's a paralegal at your husband's firm. 26 years old, graduated from law school 2 years ago. The affair appears to have been ongoing for at least 18 months. 18 months. A year and a half of lies. There's more," Victoria continued. "Last weekend, when your husband said he had a business trip to Chicago? She laid down more photos. Marcus and Claire at a luxury resort 3 towns over, checking in under the name Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. Harrison was his middle name. I stared at the photos until they blurred. What do I do now? That depends, Victoria said. Do you want to save the marriage, or do you want to protect yourself? I chose to protect myself. That meant more investigation. It meant Dr. Patel looking at me with sympathy when I insisted on the most comprehensive fertility workup available. It meant swallowing my pride and my shame and demanding answers about my own body. The results came back on a Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Patel called me herself. Emma, your fertility is completely normal. Actually, better than normal. Your ovarian reserve is excellent for 32. Your hormones are balanced, your tubes are clear, everything looks great. I sat down hard in my home office chair. Then why? If you've been trying for 3 years with no success and your fertility is this good, then the issue is likely with your partner. Has Marcus been tested? He refused. He said there was nothing wrong with him. Dr. Patel was quiet for a moment. Emma, I'm going to speak bluntly. What you're describing sounds like reproductive coercion when one partner deliberately prevents conception while making the other partner believe they're the problem. Has Marcus been avoiding me? I finished. During my fertile windows. For months now. I think you need to have a serious conversation with him. Or better yet, with a lawyer. That night, I stood outside Marcus's study, listening to him talk on the phone. I know, baby. I know. Just a few more months, and I'll have everything sorted. She won't get much in the divorce. Prenup was ironclad. Then we can start our family. My blood turned to ice. The divorce. Our family. He'd been planning this. After he went to bed, I broke into his home safe. The code was easy, Diane's birthday, because of course it was. Inside, I found our prenup. I'd signed it 5 years ago in the giddy excitement of our engagement, barely reading it. Marcus said it was just a formality, that it protected both of us. Reading it now, I wanted to vomit. If we divorced, I'd get almost nothing. No claim to his inheritance, no share of his business assets, no right to the house. I'd signed away everything. I didn't confront Marcus. Not yet. Instead, I became a student of deception. I smiled when he came home late. I nodded when he explained another emergency client meeting. I pretended not to notice when he stepped into the hallway to take calls. And I built my case. Victoria's investigation expanded. She tracked his movements, photographed his meetings with Claire, documented every lie. The affair was blatant now that I knew what to look for. They barely tried to hide it. But I needed more than proof of infidelity. The prenup didn't care about adultery. I needed evidence of fraud. Victoria found it in his finances. There's an offshore account, she told me 2 weeks into the investigation. Cayman Islands. Your husband has been moving money there for the past 3 years. How much? $780,000. I nearly dropped my coffee. That's not possible. Where would he get? Marital assets, Victoria said grimly. Small transfers from your joint accounts, bonuses he never mentioned, the inheritance from his grandfather that he told you was tied up in probate. He's been systematically hiding money from you. That's fraud, I breathed. That's fraud, Victoria confirmed. Which means your prenup might not be worth the paper it's printed on. I met with Patricia Hernandez on a Friday afternoon. She came highly recommended, a divorce attorney known for destroying ironclad prenups and making wealthy men cry. She was in her 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of sharp intelligence that made me feel safe for the first time in months. Your prenup is solid, she admitted after reviewing it. But it's not bulletproof. If we can prove he concealed assets or committed fraud during the marriage, we can invalidate it. This offshore account is exactly what we need. What else do you need from me? Everything, Patricia said. Every document, every photograph, every text message. We're going to build a case so airtight that he'll have no choice but to settle on our terms. Diane showed up at my house 2 days later, Marcus in tow. I'd been expecting this. Victoria had warned me that Marcus was getting desperate. Emma, we need to talk, Diane announced, sweeping past me into my living room like she owned it. I started recording on my phone before following them. Marcus has been very patient with you, Diane began. But this situation has gone on long enough. You've had 3 years to give him a child, and you've failed. The kindest thing you can do now is step aside gracefully. I stared at her. Step aside? Sign over the house, Marcus said, not meeting my eyes. As compensation for wasting my time. For failing to uphold your end of the marriage. My end. I laughed, and it sounded slightly unhinged even to me. My end was to get pregnant. It's what wives do, Diane snapped. They bear children. You can't even manage that basic biological function. You're defective, Emma. I watched them both, these two people who'd spent 3 years systematically destroying my self-worth, and I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger, clarity. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me? Diane drew herself up. Get out of my house. Now. Marcus stood.
Ain't comion.
Mom's just trying to. Your mother just called me defective in my own home. You stood there and listened. Now both of you get out before I call the police. After they left, I sent the recording to Patricia with shaking hands. Her response was immediate. Perfect. This is harassment and proves their intent to defraud you. Keep documenting everything. Victoria's next discovery was even more damning. Marcus had been billing personal expenses to his law firm for years. Every dinner with Claire, every hotel room, even the Cartier necklace that I'd seen glittering on Claire's throat in the surveillance photos. He's embezzled approximately $200,000 in fraudulent expense reports, Victoria explained. His firm has no idea. Yet. What do we do with this? We sit on it.
For now.
But if we need leverage, this could destroy his career. My phone buzzed late one night. A text from an unknown number. This is Claire.
Can we talk?
Every instinct screamed no. This woman had slept with my husband for 18 months. She'd worn the jewelry he bought her with hidden marital funds. She'd believed his lies about me. But I needed information more than I needed pride. We met at a coffee shop across town. Claire looked younger in person and more scared. Her hands trembled around her latte. I'm pregnant, she blurted out. The coffee shop seemed to tilt. Congratulations. It's Marcus's. At least, I think it is. He thinks it is. She started crying. He was so happy when I told him. He took me to appointments, picked baby names. And then 3 weeks ago, he just stopped. Stopped calling, stopped answering texts. He told me to handle it and offered me money for an abortion. I felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't know what to do. I'm 5 months along. I can't afford to raise a baby alone. And he promised he was leaving you, that you couldn't have children anyway, that we'd be a family. He told you I couldn't have children? He said you were infertile, that the doctors had told you it was impossible, that your eggs were. She stopped, registering my expression. He lied, didn't he? I'm not infertile, I said quietly. I'm completely healthy. He's the one who's never been tested. Claire went very still. What? My fertility is perfect. His has never been evaluated, despite me begging him for 3 years. Her face crumpled. Oh my God. Oh my God. What if? What if what? My ex-boyfriend, she whispered. We slept together once, about 6 months ago, after a fight with Marcus. I thought Marcus was so confident about his fertility. I didn't think. We stared at each other across the table, and I saw my own horror reflected in her eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Claire's pregnancy, about Marcus's absolute certainty that he was the father despite never having confirmed his own fertility. At 3 a.m., I did something desperate. I searched through the bathroom trash from earlier that week and found what I was looking for, a used condom. Marcus and I rarely use them anymore, but he'd insisted on one a few nights ago during a rare moment of intimacy. I packaged it carefully, and the next morning I took it to a private lab that Victoria recommended. They could analyze it for sperm count and quality, no questions asked. The results came back 3 days later. Severe oligospermia. Sperm count of 2 million per milliliter. Normal is 15 million or higher. Motility at 15%. Normal is 40% or higher. Less than 5% chance of natural conception. Marcus was infertile. He'd probably been infertile our entire marriage. And he'd known. He had to have known. I called Patricia immediately. "This changes everything," she said. "This is reproductive fraud. Medical deception. If he knew about his condition and deliberately hid it from you while blaming you, while making you believe you were the problem. Emma, this invalidates your prenup. This is unconscionable conduct. Can we prove he knew? We'll subpoena his medical records. If he's been tested before and hid the results, we'll find out." 2 days later, I got another text from Claire. "He's been calling me nonstop. Wants to meet."
I'm scared.
"Don't meet him alone," I typed back. "If you meet him, record everything." She didn't respond for hours. Then late that night, I met him. He admitted the baby probably isn't his. Said his sperm count is too low. He's known for 2 years. 2 years. He'd known for 2 years that he was infertile and had continued to let me believe I was broken. "Did you record it?" I asked. "Every word." The doorbell rang at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I jerked awake, disoriented. Marcus's side of the bed was empty, another late night at the office. The ringing came again, urgent and desperate. Through the peephole I saw her.
Claire.
Soaked from the rain, visibly pregnant now, mascara streaming down her face. Every logical part of my brain said don't open the door. But my hand was already turning the lock. "I'm sorry," she sobbed the moment the door opened. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know where else to go. He won't answer my calls. He blocked me. I'm 5 months pregnant, and I have no one, and I needed you to know I didn't know. About you. About any of it." I pulled her inside before the neighbors could see. In my kitchen, wrapped in a blanket with tea she didn't touch, Claire told me everything. Claire was staring at him with dawning horror. "You told me you were so fertile. You said the problem was her. If you can barely conceive," I continued, watching realization hit them both, "what are the chances that baby is actually yours?" The silence was deafening. Claire's voice came out as a whisper. "Oh my God. Claire," I said gently, "is there any chance the baby isn't Marcus's?" She looked between us, tears streaming. "My ex-boyfriend. That one night." But Marcus was so sure. He said he was so fertile, he'd already checked, and I believed. Marcus made a strangled sound. "You cheated on me?" The audacity almost made me laugh. "You're joking. This isn't my baby?" He stared at Claire with something like betrayal. "You lied to me? You lied to everyone." Claire shouted back. "You told me she was infertile. Someone sent the firm evidence of. They're accusing me of embezzlement, Emma. This is your fault. You and that crazy bitch Claire. Watch how you talk about her," I said coldly. "She's carrying a baby. Maybe yours, maybe not. Either way, she deserves respect. She deserves nothing. Neither do you. You're going to regret this." I hung up. The paternity test results came back 2 weeks later. Claire called me, crying. "It's not Marcus's. It's definitely my ex's. The dates line up perfectly." I felt an odd mixture of emotions. Relief for Claire that she wouldn't be tied to Marcus forever, and a strange vindication that Marcus's certainty about his own fertility had been so misplaced. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Relieved," she admitted. "Terrified. But relieved. My ex and I have been talking. He wants to co-parent. He's actually excited."
I'm glad, Claire.
"Emma, I need to tell you something. Marcus had me sign a contract. He called it a surrogacy agreement. He said once the baby was born, custody would primarily be his. He promised me $50,000 as a baby bonus. He made me sign it 6 weeks into the pregnancy. Do you still have it? I'll send it to you right now." The document was insane. A homemade contract with no legal standing, but it proved Marcus's intent. He'd been planning to take Claire's baby, pay her off, and present himself as a single father who'd adopted to work around his infertile wife. The level of calculation was breathtaking. Patricia filed an anonymous complaint with the State Bar Association, providing evidence of Marcus's embezzlement. Combined with the firm's investigation, Marcus was facing potential disbarment. His career was imploding. Good. Diane tried to bribe me. She showed up at my house with a check for $100,000. Take it and go away quietly, she said. Drop whatever charges you're planning. Let Marcus move on with his life. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You're attempting to bribe me to conceal evidence of financial fraud? Her eyes widened. That's not. I'm simply offering. You're offering me money to commit a crime. That's witness tampering, Diane. She left quickly after that. I sent the recording to Patricia immediately. The biggest discovery came from David's deep dive into Marcus's medical records, which we subpoenaed through Patricia. Marcus had been diagnosed with severe oligospermia 4 years ago. Before our wedding, he'd known he was infertile when he married me. He'd known when I started begging to try for children. He'd known every single time Diane mocked me for being barren. He'd known, and he'd let me suffer. This is fraud in the inception of the marriage contract, Patricia explained. He concealed a material fact that you had the right to know before marrying him. Combined with the hidden assets and reproductive coercion, this prenup doesn't stand a chance. Marcus tried to settle. His lawyer offered me the house, half his remaining liquid assets, and $5,000 a month alimony for 5 years. It's not bad, Patricia admitted. But we can do better. Much better. I countered. I wanted everything from the offshore account, the Florida condo, full ownership of the house, and $7,500 monthly alimony for 10 years. Marcus's lawyer said we were being unreasonable. Patricia smiled. Then we'll see you in court. The week before the trial, Marcus's sister Jennifer called me. I need to tell you something, she said. Something I should have told you years ago. We met at a quiet restaurant. Jennifer looked nervous, but determined. Marcus has always been like this, she said. Even as kids. He'd lie, manipulate, play victim. And Mom always protected him. Always. He broke my favorite doll when I was 8 and convinced our parents I'd done it myself. I was grounded for a week. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of watching him destroy people. You don't deserve what he's done to you. And I'll testify to that. I'll testify about his character, about Mom's enabling. All of it. Her offer brought tears to my eyes. Thank you. He's my brother, Jennifer said. But he's a monster. And someone needs to stop him. Patricia filed for divorce on a Monday morning. The complaint was 40 pages long, meticulously detailing every instance of fraud, concealment, and deception. We also filed a motion to invalidate the prenup based on fraudulent concealment of assets and Marcus's undisclosed fertility diagnosis. Marcus and Diane were served simultaneously. He at his mother's house where he'd been staying, she as a potential co-defendant for conspiracy to hide marital assets. Patricia's assistant called me an hour later. You should have heard him screaming. Could hear it through the door. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a cold, clear determination to see this through. Claire and I had formed an unlikely alliance. I helped her find a good employment attorney when Marcus tried to have her fired from the firm. She provided insider information about his work dealings and agreed to testify about his fraudulent surrogacy contract. We met for coffee every week. Strange as it was, she'd become something like a friend. My ex and I are going to try again, she told me one afternoon, her hand on her growing belly. Really try this time. He's excited about the baby. He's already painting the nursery. I'm happy for you, Claire. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. For all of it. I should have questioned his story about you. I should have done more research. He's a practiced liar, I interrupted gently. You're not the villain here. He is. The law firm completed their investigation and fired Marcus for embezzling $186,000, more than initially discovered. They referred the case to the state bar and demanded full restitution. Marcus's legal career was over. His lawyer called Patricia to discuss settlement again. The offer improved. The house, 60% of assets, $6,000 monthly alimony for 7 years. He's desperate, Patricia said. Let's push harder. David Kim made another discovery. Marcus had been billing his own fertility treatments to his health insurance as Emma Harrison. He'd undergone 3 rounds of expensive sperm enhancement therapy over the past 2 years, fraudulently using my name and social security number. This is identity theft, David explained. Medical fraud. And it proves he absolutely knew about his fertility issues and was actively trying to fix them while blaming you. The evidence kept mounting, each piece more damning than the last. Sarah, my best friend, connected me with a divorce support group for women dealing with narcissistic partners. I was hesitant at first. I'd never been much of a group person, but the first meeting changed something in me. These women understood. They'd lived through the gaslighting, the financial abuse, the systematic erosion of self-worth. They'd survived, and they were helping each other rebuild. I started attending every week. Eventually, I began sharing my own story. The relief of being believed, of not having to explain or justify, was profound. One woman, Rebecca, pulled me aside after meeting. You're going to get through this. And when you do, you'll be stronger than you ever imagined possible. I wanted to believe her. Marcus launched his own PR campaign, telling everyone in our social circle that I was frigid, controlling, and had prevented him from having children through my psychological issues. Several mutual friends believed him. It hurt more than I expected. Couples we'd known for years suddenly stopped responding to my texts. Dinner invitations dried up. I was uninvited from a book club I'd belonged to for 3 years. But my real friends, Sarah, my college roommate Maya, my cousin Tom, they rallied around me. They knew the truth, and they made sure I wasn't alone. The people who believe him aren't your friends, Sarah said bluntly. They're his audience. Let them go. I had the house appraised professionally. It was worth $1.2 million. It had doubled in value since we bought it 5 years ago. More importantly, I'd contributed $150,000 from my grandmother's inheritance to the down payment. I had documentation proving it. Even with the prenup, I had a legitimate claim to substantial equity in the house. Patricia added it to our ammunition. Marcus tried to win me back. The love bombing was aggressive and desperate. Flowers delivered daily. A new car in the driveway, which I refused. Lengthy emails professing his love and begging for forgiveness. I was sick, he wrote. I need therapy. I made terrible mistakes, but I love you. Please don't destroy me. Patricia advised me not to respond. He's trying to manipulate you or create evidence that you forgave him. Ignore it all. I blocked his number and had my locks changed. The most damaging evidence came from Marcus's own fertility doctor. Under subpoena, Dr. Richard Voss testified that Marcus had been diagnosed with severe oligospermia 4 years ago, 3 months before our wedding. Dr. Voss had recommended immediate treatment and strongly advised Marcus to inform his fiancée about the diagnosis before marriage. Marcus had refused both recommendations. He told me his future wife didn't need to know, Dr. Voss stated in his deposition. He said he'd handle it his own way. This was premeditated deception at the highest level. Jennifer, Marcus's sister, became an unexpected pillar of support. She'd gone low contact with Diane and completely cut off Marcus. She sent me articles about narcissistic family systems and recommended therapists who specialized in divorce trauma. I'm testifying at your trial, she told me over lunch. I'm going to tell them exactly what kind of person my brother is, what kind of person our mother is. They've gotten away with this behavior for too long. Thank you, I said, meaning it deeply. You deserve better, Jennifer replied. You always did. The depositions began in March, 6 months after I'd filed for divorce. Marcus went first. He showed up in an expensive suit he couldn't afford anymore, his jaw tight, his eyes cold.
Patricia took him apart piece by piece.
Mr. Harrison, did you open an offshore account in the Cayman Islands without your wife's knowledge? That was a retirement account. For both of us. A retirement account that only you had access to? That you never mentioned in 6 years of marriage? I forgot about it. Patricia slid a document across the table. These are emails between you and your mother discussing how to hide money from Emma when the divorce comes. This email is dated 3 years ago. Were you planning to divorce your wife 3 years ago, Mr. Harrison? He went pale. That's out of context. Is it? Let me read it aloud. Mom, I need help moving money where Emma can't find it. When we divorce, I want to protect Dad's inheritance. She doesn't deserve a penny of it. Your words, Mr. Harrison? I was angry. I didn't mean. You were angry 3 years ago? About what? He stumbled through a non-answer. Patricia moved to the next topic. When were you diagnosed with oligospermia? I don't remember. 4 years ago. 3 months before your wedding. Dr. Richard Voss's records are very clear. Did you inform your fiancé about this diagnosis? That's private medical information. Did you inform her?
No.
Did Dr. Voss recommend you inform her? Marcus's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Marcus admitted under oath that he'd hidden a fertility diagnosis from his wife-to-be, then spent 3 years blaming her for their inability to conceive. Diane's deposition was 2 days later. She arrived dressed like she was attending a country club luncheon, dripping with condescension. Patricia was merciless. Mrs. Harrison, did you help your son open an offshore bank account? I gave him a gift. There's nothing illegal about that. A gift of $250,000 placed in an account specifically designed to hide assets from his wife. I don't know what the account was for. Patricia produced the emails. Diane's own words, discussing strategies to protect Marcus's inheritance from that gold digger. Diane's composure cracked. She was never good enough for him. I was protecting my son's future. By helping him commit fraud? It's not fraud to protect family assets. It is when those assets are marital property. Did you also help purchase a condo in Florida with marital funds? Diane faltered. The deposition went downhill from there. Marcus's law firm dropped another bomb. Their forensic investigation revealed he'd stolen $186,000 over 5 years, but they'd also discovered he'd been sharing confidential client information with Claire, potentially violating attorney-client privilege. The State Bar fast-tracked their investigation. Disbarment was almost certain. Marcus's lawyer requested an emergency settlement conference.
Claire testified via sworn affidavit.
She detailed every promise Marcus had made, the fake surrogacy contract, his insistence that he was extremely fertile despite evidence to the contrary. She included text messages where Marcus explicitly blamed me for being infertile. Her testimony was devastating to Marcus's credibility. Jennifer testified about growing up with Marcus and Diane. She described a pattern of manipulation, lying, and Diane's constant enabling of Marcus's worst behaviors. My mother told Marcus he was special, that rules didn't apply to him, that any woman should be grateful to have him, Jennifer stated. Emma was just the latest victim of their toxic dynamic. Marcus's lawyer tried to discredit her as a bitter sister. It didn't work. The trial began in May. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, more intimate. Marcus sat at the defendant's table, refusing to look at me. Diane sat in the gallery, her face a mask of fury. Patricia's opening statement was surgical. She painted a picture of systematic fraud spanning the entire marriage, financial deception, medical fraud, reproductive coercion, and emotional abuse. Marcus's lawyer countered with a narrative of a troubled marriage where both parties shared blame. He portrayed me as vindictive and money-hungry. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Honor Margaret Chen, looked unimpressed with his arguments. I took the stand on day 2. Patricia walked me through the timeline, the fertility struggles, Diane's abuse, discovering the affair, finding the hidden accounts. How did you feel when you discovered your husband had been diagnosed with infertility before your marriage? Patricia asked. I took a breath. Betrayed.
But more than that, relieved.
For 3 years, I believed I was broken. His mother called me Barren. He avoided me during my fertile windows. They made me feel like I was failing at something fundamental to being a woman. When I saw his diagnosis, I realized none of it was real. He'd manufactured my suffering. There were tears in my eyes. I didn't try to hide them. Marcus's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to suggest I'd been aware of the offshore account, that I'd been complicit in the financial arrangements. I remained calm. I trusted my husband. That was my mistake. Dr. Patel testified as an expert witness. She explained how Marcus's diagnosis made natural conception nearly impossible and how his refusal to disclose this information or seek treatment constituted reproductive coercion. Mrs. Harrison endured 3 years of invasive fertility testing, hormone treatments, and psychological trauma, all while believing she was the problem. Had Mr. Harrison been honest from the beginning, this could have been avoided entirely. David Kim presented his forensic analysis of the financial fraud. The numbers were damning: $780,000 hidden offshore, $127,000 siphoned from joint accounts, $400,000 in the undisclosed Florida condo, $186,000 embezzled from his firm. Mr. Harrison executed a sophisticated, multi-year campaign to hide marital assets while positioning himself for a financially advantageous divorce, David testified. This wasn't oversight. This was planning. On day 4, Marcus took the stand. He'd been advised not to, but his ego wouldn't let him stay silent. Patricia destroyed him. She walked him through every lie, every hidden account, every fraudulent charge. She made him read his own emails aloud, the ones to Diane about hiding money, the ones to Claire promising to leave his barren wife. Then she produced evidence I didn't know existed, a consultation with a divorce attorney from 2 years ago. Marcus had been planning this divorce for at least that long, systematically hiding assets while publicly claiming to want to save the marriage. Under pressure, Marcus's composure shattered. "She was supposed to give me children," he shouted. "That was the deal. I married her because she was supposed to be a good wife, a good mother. Instead, she couldn't even do the one thing." "Mr. Harrison," Judge Chen interrupted coldly, "you were diagnosed as infertile before your marriage. How is your wife supposed to conceive when you were physically incapable?" Marcus seemed to realize what he'd admitted. That's not. The doctors said it was possible." "The doctors said less than 5% chance," Patricia corrected. "And you never told your wife." Marcus had no answer. Diane couldn't help herself. During a recess on day 5, she stood up in the gallery and shouted, "That conniving bitch trapped my son. She's a gold digger who couldn't even produce an heir." Judge Chen held her in contempt of court. Bailiffs escorted Diane out while she screamed about injustice. The outburst damaged Emma. "Please." His voice cracked. "I'm going to have nothing. How am I supposed to pay all this?" "You should have thought of that before you stole from me," I said calmly. "My career is ruined. My reputation is destroyed. I'll be lucky to get a job as a paralegal." "Claire started as a paralegal," I pointed out. "Maybe you'll understand what her life was like when you discarded her." He stared at me like I'd struck him. "I loved you. I really did." "No, you didn't," I said. "You loved what you thought I should be. You never loved who I actually was." I walked away and didn't look back. Diane tried to call me 17 times that evening. I blocked her number. She sent letters that I returned unopened. She showed up at my house once, but I'd already gotten a restraining order. The police escorted her away. Jennifer called to congratulate me. "You did it. You actually stood up to them and won." "We won," I corrected. "Your testimony mattered." "I'm proud of you," she said. "I wish I'd had your courage years ago." The state bar formally disbarred Marcus 3 weeks later. The criminal charges for embezzlement were dropped as part of his restitution agreement with the firm, but his legal career was permanently over. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was working at a corporate document review company, making $45,000 a year. With his spousal support obligations, restitution payments, and basic living expenses, he was barely scraping by. Diane had lost her position on multiple charity boards. The country club quietly asked her to resign her membership. Her social standing, the thing she valued most, was in ruins. I felt no satisfaction in their downfall, just a quiet sense of justice. Moving day felt like shedding a skin. I hired movers to take out every piece of furniture Marcus had chosen, every decoration Diane had insisted on, every reminder of who I'd pretended to be in that marriage. Sarah helped me shop for new furniture. Nothing expensive or showy, just things I actually liked. A comfortable sectional in deep blue. Art prints from artists I loved. Plants everywhere because Marcus had hated plants. The house slowly transformed into mine. Really mine. My graphic design business exploded. Word got out about my resilience during the divorce. Strange as it was, potential clients saw strength in my story. I landed 3 major contracts in 2 months and hired 2 employees, a recent design school graduate named Maya and a brilliant illustrator named Chris. For the first time in my career, I felt proud of what I was building. Claire gave birth to a healthy baby girl in August. She named her Sophie. Her ex-boyfriend, now her partner again, was at the delivery, and their families rallied around them. Claire sent me a photo. Sophie with a full head of dark hair, sleeping peacefully. "Thank you for saving me," the message read, "and for showing me what real strength looks like." I sent a gift basket and a card. Our unlikely friendship had evolved into something genuine. We texted occasionally, shared life updates, but maintained healthy boundaries. She was building her family. I was building my freedom. Both were victories. The divorce support group asked me to co-facilitate meetings. I hesitated at first, unsure if I was ready, but Rebecca convinced me. "You have a gift for seeing through manipulation," she said. "These women need someone who understands the financial and legal side of escaping. You could help so many people." I started sharing my story at meetings, not for sympathy, but as a roadmap. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Hire good lawyers. Don't let shame keep you trapped. The women who heard it started fighting back. They started getting forensic accountants. They started recording conversations and taking photographs and building cases. I watched them transform from victims to warriors, and it felt like the best revenge possible, turning my pain into power for others. I started a blog, Financial Freedom After Fraud. It detailed warning signs of financial abuse, how to protect assets, and resources for women in similar situations. Within 6 months, I had 50,000 followers. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a letter from Jennifer. She'd been in intensive therapy, processing her childhood trauma. She was engaged to a kind woman named Lisa, and she'd written a letter to Marcus and Diane cutting off contact permanently. "Thank you for being the catalyst I needed to break free," she wrote. "Watching you stand up to them gave me permission to do the same." Her wedding invitation arrived in spring. I attended and cried during their vows, the happy kind of crying, the kind that comes from witnessing people choose authentic love. I heard about Marcus only through occasional social media glimpses. He'd grown a beard and lost weight, not in a healthy way. He was dating someone new, a woman who looked disturbingly young. I hoped she'd research his past. I hoped she'd run. But it wasn't my responsibility to save her. I'd learned that lesson painfully. Diane had moved to Arizona to live with her sister. The rumors said she was bitter and isolated, blaming everyone but herself for her social exile. I felt nothing when I heard. Not joy, not sadness. Just the neutral distance of someone who'd moved on completely. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, I did something I never thought I'd do again. I agreed to a date. His name was Alex. We'd met at a professional networking event where I was speaking about running a small business. He was an environmental engineer with kind eyes and an easy laugh. He'd asked if I wanted to get coffee, and I'd surprised myself by saying yes. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a walk by the river. We talked about everything except my past. He seemed to understand I needed space from that narrative. "What do you want for your future?" he asked as we watched the sunset reflect off the water. I thought about it carefully. I want to keep building my business. I want to help more women escape bad situations. I want to travel. I've never been to Italy. I want to adopt a dog. And I want to be with someone who sees me as a complete person, not a project or a trophy. Those all sound like good. The toast rang through my dining room, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, complete. Not because I'd found another relationship or achieved some external measure of success, but because I'd fought for myself and won. I'd taken everything they'd used to hurt me, my supposed infertility, my trusting nature, my desire for family, and I'd alchemized it into strength. I'd turned Marcus and Diane's cruelty into advocacy. I'd transformed my pain into purpose. As the evening wound down and my friends left in groups, hugging me and promising to do this again soon, I stood in my doorway watching them go. The house felt warm and alive, filled with the echo of genuine laughter. Sarah was the last to leave. She hugged me tight. "You did it, Em. You really did it." "We did it," I corrected. After she left, I walked through my house, turning off lights and gathering wine glasses. In the kitchen, I paused at the window. The moon was full, casting silver light across my garden. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. "Hope your dinner party was amazing. Coffee this week?" I smiled and typed back. It was perfect. Coffee sounds great. I wasn't rushing into anything. There was no desperation, no need to fill a void. Just the quiet confidence of someone who knew her own worth and wouldn't settle for anything less than genuine partnership. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, my sanctuary, designed exactly how I wanted it. The fertility journal sat in my nightstand drawer. I hadn't opened it in months. I pulled it out and flipped to a blank page at the back. In careful script, I wrote, "Today marks 1 year of freedom. I've learned that being barren meant nothing about my body and everything about the emptiness in Marcus's soul. I've learned that the family you build, through friendship, through purpose, through choice, is just as valid as the one you're born into. I've learned that peace really does taste better than revenge. And I've learned that the only person who gets to define my worth is me. I am enough. I always was." I closed the journal and put it back in the drawer. Not to forget, but to remember that some chapters deserve to be finished so new ones can begin. That night, I slept deeply and dreamlessly in my house, in my bed, in my life. All of it earned, all of it mine, all of it exactly what I deserved. If someone you loved let you take the blame for something that was never your fault, would you forgive them or walk away forever? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength when everything falls apart.